Hi, this is Aaron Dubinsky coming to you today from the Chut Shel Chesed Yeshiva in the holy city of Yerushalayim in the most beautiful, exotic state of Israel, under the direction of our beloved rabbi and spiritual guide, Rabbi Shalom Arush. May Hashem bless him always. Tests. Don't you just love them? I mean, they've been a part of your life for as far back as you can remember, right? Tested from the very beginning, from the time you're small and you learned how to say dada and mama. What do your parents do? They take you in front of other people to show them you can say dada and mama. Your earliest tests. And those tests weren't so bad because they were pretty simple. Pretty much either you knew it or you didn't. And if you didn't, well, that was the way it was. He's just being finicky today, I guess. But as soon as you get to school, well, now it's a different story. I can still remember those words used to send chills down my spine. Okay, everybody, put all your books under your chairs and take out a pencil and a clean sheet of paper. You knew what was next. A test. Well, they called it a quiz, but it was a test. It was a test to see what do you remember that I've taught you so far. We think they were forms of punishment, medieval punishment. But let's face it, that wasn't what they were there for. They wanted to know, is their teaching getting across to the children sitting in front of them? This is simple testing, but it was testing nonetheless. And the tests continue through higher education, into our jobs in many cases, into professions that we have in many cases. Do we know all the things a lawyer should know, all the things a doctor should know, all the things any kind of professional should know? Do we know them? That's why they give us a test. And we think, well, you know, it's just a form of punishment. But it's not. It's not a form of punishment at all. It's for our benefit. It's to teach us what do we know. And to prove this, go back in Torah. Go all the way back to the very beginning, Bereshis. One test that Adam and Chava were given. One test. In a garden where you have everything, and you can eat of anything, and you can do anything you want of anything that's in the garden, except do not eat from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because if you do, you'll die. This was a test. Can you restrain yourself? Because you've been told you can't do it. And let's face it, a lot of the attraction of some of the things that we do in life that are wrong is because we were told we can't. So if we can't, naturally, it's human nature that we want to. How did they do on that test? Well, unfortunately, today most of us make a living by the sweat of our brow, just like we were told we would. And women in childbirth have pain, just like we were told we would. We were given the reaction to what happens when you don't pass a test. It's the same thing today. If you sit for a test as a CPA and you don't pass a test, you don't become a CPA. And the punishments remain the same. They give us something to make us know we need to work harder next time. As we go over further in time, Noach built the ark. It says Noach was a righteous man for his generation. Now the Ravs they'll argue as to whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. Was it a compliment or were they taking him apart? And we're not going to go into that today, but I'm going to tell you, he built the ark, he filled it with animals. Did he have a test on this? Of course he did. He had a test. What was his test? Would he plead with God to save all of humanity? Would he plead? Would he say, Hashem, do you really have to kill them all? Isn't there another way? Can't we hurt them a little bit maybe and then understand that they were doing wrong? Well, that was already tried and it didn't work. Hashem had it, and it was the end of humanity. It was also the end of the test for Noah, because he never, right to the day he walked into the ark, did he ever say, Hashem, can't we save these people? What can we do? So he didn't do very well in his tests either. We move forward, we have Abraham. He had 10 tests, last of which was so horrible, so horrifying to even think about. The killing of his own son. You're talking about a man who waited 100 years to have a child. The child comes along and Hashem says, give him to me, kill him. Well, we know the rest of the story. Not only did Abraham say okay, but he got up early in the morning to do what Hashem had asked of him. He saddled his own donkey to make sure everything was ready to go. So he passed his test, and in so doing became the first Jew. He was the first one because of who he was, because of the tests he passed, because of the actions he did. What about Isaac? Did Isaac have any tests? Well, you bet he did. It talks about Isaac being a nar. It talks about him being a youth. As a youth, we think of someone certainly below the age of about 15, maybe even younger. So we figure, well, he could certainly take somebody like that and bind him, tie his hands, and put him on an altar. But we all know that's not what it really was. It was said that way on purpose to give us that impression. But the truth was, at this time, Isaac was 37 years old. Do you think he could have fended off a 137-year-old man who was trying to tie him down? Of course he could have. That would have been the most logical thing for a human being to have done. But again, he believed in his father's God. He believed in our God. He believed when Hashem said, you need to do this, without question as to why, without hesitation, he was willing to give up his life. And he passed the test. And because of that, he moved the Jews forward another generation. Then we have Esau and Yaakov. They had their own tests. Esau's test was to try to keep the birthright, which he didn't do. He gave it to Yaakov, and he gave it to him for a bowl of lentil soup. Pretty cheap. He said, what need do I have of a birthright? What do I need a birthright for? What good is that to me? I'm young. I'm vibrant. I can do whatever I want to do. Who needs a birthright? So he failed that test. He didn't keep it like he should have. It is of great value, as we see later on in the Parsha. On the part of Yaakov this week wrestles with an angel all night. All night long he wrestles with an angel. And the angel cannot defeat him. And the angel finally says, you have to let me go. I've got to go. And he says to him, what's your name? He never tells him. He says, how do I know you are who you say you are? He says, I'm going to change your name today. You're no longer Jacob. You are no longer Yaakov. You are now Yisrael. He passed the test. He walked with a limp for quite a while because the angel touched him on the sciatica, and he had a limp naturally in his life for quite a while. But he passed the test. Why do I give you these examples? This is our heritage. These are the people from whom we come. This is where our DNA comes from. This is where we are formed. We are formed from our forefathers, all the people who came before us. And yet, to this very day, every time we get a test, we ask why. Why? Hashem, why do you do this to me? Chas v'sholom, you should say that. But why? Is this so horrible for me? Why would you do this to me? What did I ever do to you? Well, Rabbi Nachman said, there are no tribulations without prior transgressions. In other words, if you've done something wrong, you're going to have to pay for it. It's yin and yang. It's either side. You do one, you get the other. When does it come? We never know when it's going to come. That's what makes it such an interesting test. That's like those pop quizzes we talked about in the very beginning. Put your books under your table and take out a pencil and a clean sheet of paper. It's a pop quiz. It comes when we least expect it. What is interesting, however, is the fact that if we are really trying to live the best life that we can and moving forward in our lives, if we are doing that, these tests tend to come at a time when we really need that extra kick. We really need somebody to push us forward. We really need someone to show us where we need to improve. What is it we know? What is it we don't know? What is it we need to do to become the person we are supposed to be? We get tests when we come to Israel. For those of you who have made Aliyah, you understand this. The first year. Tell me about your first year here. Unless you came with a sack full of money, your first year was challenging. For me, my first year was almost impossible. I came a year after a 7-year drought, and it did nothing in winter but rain and rain and rain and rain. I'd come to work, and my boss, Yosef Nachama, will tell you, most of the time during winter I was walking around barefoot because my shoes and socks were soaking wet. I'd go home for Hanukkah. I had double windows in my apartment. Double windows, outside window, inside window. I thought, well, I'll just slide in between them, and that won't be a problem. Apparently the outside window wasn't as strong as I thought it was, because as I'm lighting my Hanukkah candles, I am being rained on. Okay? So, we are tested when we come here. Money could always be a challenge for somebody who's new here. Finding our way around could be a challenge. Finding the right people to be our friends. Finding the right places to live. Finding the right shul. All of the things that go with living a normal life that take time to find the right answers. And that's what we have. Those are our tests. Some people don't make it that first year. They actually go back to where they came from. Some people make it that year, but not for very much longer. Some people make it several years and then go back. My question to you is, if we're all supposed to be in Israel, and if we can't be in Israel, we must have a strong desire to be in Israel. If we go home, what does that say about our strong desire to be here in Israel? Yeah, exactly. So you understand, it's a test, and the test doesn't stop. It keeps on coming. There's parnasa issues. There's health issues. There's shalom bayit issues, where one person is really happy to be here, one person is not so happy to be here, and they're trying to resolve between them what they have to do to keep peace in their home. Tests, they come, and they come, and they come, and they come. And when we get beyond all that, there will still be more tests. As we're doing something, something goes wrong, we have to deal with it. It's a test. It's a test. Do you at this point say, Hashem, I can't believe you would do this to me, and actually discredit him? No, you don't. You say, Hashem, thank you for bringing my attention to the fact that I have things to do. I have changes to make. Hashem did not create a perfect universe, nor did he create a perfect you or me. He created a universe that needed to work. Could he have done it perfect? Piece of cake. He could have done perfect. Why didn't he do perfect if he could have? Because he wants us to participate in the creation. Why? Because when we do the work, well, we appreciate it more. It's a bread of shame. It's called bread of shame in Zohar. It's the type of thing that you get and you didn't earn it. And our souls, when they came down, said, we'll go. But we want to be sure that we earn whatever we get. So we ask for it. We asked for it. We got it. And we complain about it. Now's the time to realize that the tests we get are for our own good. They're to show us what we know, what we don't know, what we have in the way of emunah, and where are the chinks in our armor, where are the gaps, where are the things that can take us down. Because if we don't know what they are, how can we work on them to make them better? The answer is, we have to work on them to make them better. That is our raison d'etre. That is our reason to be. That is our purpose for living on this planet. And if you are still alive, and if you are still breathing air, and if your heart is still beating, you have not completed all that you need to complete. There are many stories of people who had tests. The Arizal had tests. The Rashbi had tests. The Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan had tests. Many of our great tzaddikim had tests. Rabbi Nachman had tests. A lot of these men did not make it past the age of 35, 40. They were young when they went. Why? They passed all their tests. They didn't have to be here anymore. Why would you want to leave? Your family is here. Everything is here. Why? Torah will tell you that this planet, living here on earth, is worse than being Gehenna. It says that. And you have to think about that. You are here because you have things to do. You have changes to make. You have tikkunim to take care of. Do it now while it's not as painful. Because what happens is, if you don't take care of a problem gets presented to you many times on this earth, more than once. It gets presented to you once and you ignore it and you brush it aside. And it comes up again several years later and you brush it aside. I'm here to tell you something. Don't brush it aside. deal with it now while it's small and can be dealt with, because the longer you wait, the more times you brush it aside before you have to deal with it, the more difficult it becomes to deal with. Do yourselves a favor. Work on it now. Do it now. Do it right now. Because if you do, you participate very strongly in your personal redemption and in the final redemption, the Geula, and bringing quickly the announcement of Mashiach Tzidkenu and the third bit, Hamikdash b'mheira b'yameinu. Have a great week, my friends. A good Shabbos at the end of the week. Have a terrific life. Keep smiling. That smile looks good on you. Be well, my friends. All the best.